Namo Prabhupada Yamanajita Namo Namo Yamanajita Namo Prabhupada Yamanajita Namo Namo Prabhupada Yamanajita Jai Chichan Bhagavata Arati Tomo Jaya Jaya Arati Tomo Hara Hara Arati Tomo Shiva Shiva Arati Tomo Anjana Baba Jai Sri Guru Maharaj Ji Jai.
Welcome to Vedanta family members. We're very happy. Your presence is very, very precious. How can you run an event without you? So, how many of you didn't attend the last 2 days? Okay, and for your benefit, let me introduce Mataji here. Very big. Mataji is visiting us for the first time. And she's from Sri Sarada Convent, Santa Barbara, which is affiliated to Vedanta Society of Southern California. And if you happen to see her bio through website, just read the first glance. I was driven to Eurofic state. Such impressive, you'll all hear how, to what extent, to what degree we are fortunate to have her here. First of all, Mataji was initiated into Brahmacharini by Asishananda Maharaj. You know who Asishananda Maharaj is. Most of you who attended the last 2 days will know, but the rest of you. He was initiated by Holy Mother. Now we take initiation generally. So he took initiation from Holy Mother. So he's a direct disciple of Holy Mother. Later, he took brahmachari initiation from Pravrajika Maharaj and sannyasi initiation from Sardananda Maharaj. You have all heard about Sardananda Maharaj. You read in the Gospel. He is the one primarily responsible for taking care of the mother. Holy Mother used to say, Sardananda is my Adisesha, always protecting me. If Sardananda Maharaj is not in Calcutta, she will never go to Calcutta. So that type of spiritual atmosphere, and you can envision Asishananda Maharaj as initiated Mataji into brahmachari. Look at the spiritual power which flows. Holy Mother, then here Brahmanda Maharaj and to Mataji. And Mataji was initiated into sannyasini by Swami Prabhavananda Maharaj, another spiritual giant. He is the direct disciple of Brahmananda Maharaj, spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna. See how the spiritual energy flows from there to here to here. That's why we feel extremely fortunate to have the presence of Mataji in our shrine. And this is the highlight of something which we rarely come across. You see the direct link almost. Sometimes I am tempted to believe Mataji is a granddaughter of Holy Mother. So to that extent, we are spiritually charged. And other things, if you read the bio, you'll see Mataji has given several lectures in YouTube, some of them very intriguing, and the topic itself is so attractive, attention getter for anybody. Who is my mother? One of the topics. The best friend and the worst enemy. Second topic. God is simple. Don't think he's complicated, very simple. And Mataji gave another topic, cowboy, a welcome topic for state of Texas. Mataji, welcome to state of Texas.
Thank you.
So with this, I conclude, and now Mataji will take over. She's going to give a talk on practical Vedanta. We are bored with theoretical. Now we have to enter into the interesting part of practical Vedanta. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I have to tell you, once in India, when Swami was saying, he said, "How do you like Vrindavan?" And I said, "I just love it. There's so many beautiful cows." And he said, "Indians." And then I was talking about Maharaj. So, Vedanta is extremely simple for me. I simplify everything to what I can absorb. When I say everyone here has, in some form or another, taken up Vedanta as a path that they're pursuing or interested in. But what is Vedanta to most of us? Is it, what do we believe in Vedanta that we can all say we truly believe in? We have simplified it completely in Southern California and have it on our, is it not on?
That one's on.
That's for the video.
You have this one on.
Yeah, that's for the video streaming. But
Oh.
that will not amplify for the room.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah, this is for the room.
okay. This is gonna be an interesting thing. I'm so glad that you have a couple of technical glitches, because in Santa Barbara we have only 2 or 3 nuns singing arati now, and so we play a CD that we made many years ago when there were 12 of us, and every once in a while someone has come into the temple and changed the CD player, and rock and roll will come out. And we all go, well, I guess Tucker wanted to hear that, and we turn it off and get it going again. Or something stops, and they'll stop midstream and we'll continue, kind of. So I'm very happy that other places have the same problems we do. But back to what do we all agree on in Vedanta? As I say, we've simplified it pretty much in Southern California. We say we all agree that there's one God. We all agree that our inner nature is divine, and that divinity is what we are trying to realize. And that's as far as we will go philosophically that everyone can agree on. Other than that, we all have variations, and we all have, come on. No, that's perfectly okay. Okay. It's fine. It's
It's not. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll bring something else.
No, that's okay. I can hold this. It's fine. I may get it down lower and you may not hear me as well, but and if I have to start reading out of the book, I may put it down. But okay, so then we get into those 3 basic concepts. But how do we put them to work in our daily life? I mean, we have jobs, we have things we have to do, we have projects, and don't think that just because people live in a convent or monastery that they don't have jobs and have to deal with a lot of the same things that you deal with. The only thing we don't have to deal with is children of our own. Now, we adopt other children who come along, and so you worry about them as if they were your own, but we don't have that worry. But we have to, get the plumbing repaired, get the roof put on, make sure everything is done, just like everyone. How do we put our Vedanta beliefs into practice? Well, if we truly believe that there is only one, and that's God, and that every person is a manifestation of that divinity, and that our job in life is to realize that and recognize it, then we start by going, okay, we try to treat every person that we see in the same way. We try to treat them, acknowledge the fact that they are human and that they are alive, and we recognize them as such. Secondly, to recognize the divinity within them is the same as me. Every single one of us, every person that I've ever heard of on earth wants exactly the same things. They want happiness, they want contentment, they want freedom, they want liberation. And when you get into Texas for sure, but the United States in general, give me liberty or give me death, don't fence me in. I am going to do my own thing. I mean, that's the whole basis that the United States was basically started on. Freedom. And it's imperative. Success is nice, family is nice, but freedom. And that's what Swamiji came to preach. So we look at it. How can we be free? What binds us? What makes us unhappy? what I find is the thing that makes us unhappy are having expectations and individual desires. If we want something to turn out a certain way, or we want our life to go a certain direction, and we think that we can make that happen. Because in reality, we can do our part, but what happens is up to the Lord. Most of us cling to the past. Well, this happened last week, so I'm sure it's going to happen this week. When I saw that person 2 years ago, they were really nasty to me, so I'm sure it's going to happen again. Or when that person, I saw them last week, golly, they were friendly, so that's going to happen. And our expectations dictate our behavior toward that we project out into the world. So if we can give up desires for the world to be a certain way and just accept what happens as the divine will, we're not at odds with ourselves. We don't have anxiety because we don't have to worry about how it's going to come out. It's going to come out well. And at this point, I always quote Abraham Lincoln because he was wonderful. He said, "It all works out in the end. And if it hasn't worked out, it's not the end." So, and everyone in this world is just about as happy as they want to be. Now, when I started to think about that, I thought, yeah, that's what most of us do. We're happy, and then we bring up something, an expectation or a desire that hasn't been met, and we go back into our known, comfortable state of anxiety, not being quite happy enough. We actually create our own unhappiness and our own anxieties by not realizing the Lord is taking care of us. Now, we've all come to Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, as a nun said. And what do we have to worry about? They really have said that anyone who comes within this realm is free. This is your last life. You're free. So why do we have anxieties? Because we're comfortable with it. A known negative is better than an unknown whatever. I mean, seriously, why do we keep ourselves in situations? Because we know them and we're comfortable. Why do we keep putting up with people who are really not too nice? Because we're comfortable with it. We know it. We know what to expect. But we don't have to. You know, if we just lose the expectation and let the person be themselves and not try and change them or expect them to be any different, then we usually don't, their moods don't bother us. Once we have given up the idea that they have to be a certain way, or we would like them to be a certain way. And this to me is putting Vedanta in practice. It's like Holy Mother said, if we want peace of mind, which I think is one of the most important things to have, peace of mind, contentment, and joy. Those are the things that I feel are the most important things to have in living in this life. Now, you may not agree with me. You may have other things that are more important, but Holy Mother stated, if you want peace of mind, look not to the faults of others. Rather, look to your own. No one is a stranger in this world. Everyone is your own. And you don't have any problems when you feel that way. When you remember it, when you walk into strange situations and you're a little uncomfortable, just look at everyone, look at the situation and say that they're all the same as me. And they're all going to be nice. Try and replace all the negative or fears with something positive. When I taught school before I moved into the elementary school, before I moved into the convent. And one of the things we always had to watch for was self-fulfilling prophecies. Kids would come into your classroom and the teachers the years before would say, that's a problem. Well, if you looked at that child as a problem, yeah, he was. He fulfilled it. He was a problem. If you just looked at them and said, no, he's not going to be a problem this year, it's fine. They weren't. People do react in how you expect them to react. They unconsciously do that. Okay, that's one thing not to avoid. Avoid that kind of projecting how someone else is going to behave. Just the only person you can take care of is yourself. And you're the only person who can manage your own mind. Your happiness does not depend on anyone else, doesn't depend on externals. It only depends on your management of your own mind, which we try to manage by meditation. All meditation is, someone was asking me, I think, it's gathering your mind, gathering it. It's going to be scattered when you sit down to meditate. They always are, in case, at least I will speak from experience. When I first moved into the convent, my job was cooking for Swami Prabhupada. So I'd sit down to meditate and I'd plan menus. And I would anticipate, now, would he like that or would he not like? And that was my whole meditation. That was it. Well, in one way, I can rationalize it and say, I was gathering it and thinking of him, who was my guru. But in another way, I wasn't gathering it the way he had told me to. And it takes years to get that mind gathered and one-pointed. But that's what meditation is. When you can get it gathered, one-pointed, then you can enter that, get closer to realizing the divinity within your own heart. It's not, if you have a guru, just follow their instructions and they will tell you how to gather it. There's many ways you can read in books. But if you have a guru, just follow their instructions. Another practical way is, what do? I remember we had someone ask, well, Vedanta is really great. It tells me all these wonderful ideals, but what do I do when I go to the office and it's really chaos? What do I do? And I'm sure everyone has felt that. What do I do when I leave the temple? And that's where having the ideals in your mind will dictate how you will behave. I'm promoting this new book, and I have to read you a few things. It's called Being Spiritual, Staying Practical, and it's Swami Sarvagatananda. But he tells you how to gather your mind all during the day. He says no, that's the wrong one. Here's what he says. He says that Thakur is the ideal. He has given us the path to realization. In the gospel, he tells you exactly how to, he gives every kind of illustration. Keep one pointed, eat the mangoes, don't count the leaves. yeah, everything. Every single day is a repetition of these ideals. So he says, Thakur is the reality. He tells you what the reality really is. Swami Vivekananda interprets it and makes it accessible for all of us. Hence, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. He tells you how to take those paths and how to put them into use every single day. Now, the Ramakrishna order goes a little one step further and it says balance each one of them. Have a balance of the 4 yogas in your day. Have a certain amount of time set aside for meditation. Have a certain, all the work that you do, try and do it in the spirit of karma yoga as an offering rather than as I have to do this. Spiritual life begins when you get rid of me, my job. I'm responsible, because that's our ego talking. So we work on that. Then we do Raji, we do Jnana Yoga. We do some reading every day. We do some study. We do Bhakti Yoga. Everyone has an emotional nature and want to love. They want to love and be loved. And as people, love with a person goes just so far because we are all temporary. Our inner souls are forever. But the only love that you can count on forever and ever and ever is God's love. And when you can connect to that through bhakti yoga, through worship, through devotion, through singing, through whatever, what else is there? Singing, Hare Krishna's dance. But it's all an expression of love for God. So when you can express that and direct your emotional expectations there, they're not going to be disappointed. You won't be disappointed. And it's just as he says, the beginning of spirituality is getting rid of the concept of me. And every time some kind of thought arises in your mind that is a selfish thought or excuse me, start sneezing, or an unwanted thought, excuse me, gently look at your mind and say, oh, I don't want you here today. You can't be rough on yourself. Just tell your mind, no, I'm not going to entertain that today. Now, I'd never thought of that because usually my approach had always been when I get into a negative mood, and I think everyone does, every once in a while, you get frustrated, you get negative, was to try and find the good things that were happening and try and keep making it into a positive situation, which sounds really annoying because it's like that being a Pollyanna. But being a Pollyanna is just as real as being Eeyore in. It's just as real. They're both two sides, really excessive sides of the same coin. Which we want to do is get to a balance where we can see both sides and know that it's just an event or it's not eternal. When you've gone through many things down here in Texas, which I don't keep up with because we have enough going on in California to keep us occupied. We've had fires and debris flows and floods, and the tendency is to keep reminding us of the negative. We see it every day on television, and if you look at it, you see the same picture every day. They don't even upgrade the pictures. They don't even update them. They don't bother. They just keep showing exactly the same thing, creating huge anxieties in people because it's like terrible things are going to happen. Terrible things. I remember one of our nuns went to India in 1970 when they were having the trouble with Bangladesh in Calcutta. And our news kept saying, this war is going on. There's a huge war. Okay, so we finally got in touch with the nun who was in Calcutta. And we said, so how dangerous is it? And she said, nothing's going on here. So they were showing exactly the same picture of exactly the same incident over and over again to create this huge thing. When the Trade Center thing happened up in Seattle, and they were shortly, I think it was during COVID, and they said the city's on fire. They're having these, it was 2 blocks of the city. But somehow we have to recognize these things and change our attitude towards it. Know what the reality is. As someone said, experience is just an event. Growth is what you do with it, how you interpret the experience. So I remember one of the most shocking things to me. One of our nuns was down doing exercises and watching the news at the same time when war broke out in Afghanistan or Iran. And she came up and she said, we're at war. And we all went, what? She said, yeah, we've just gone to war. And I went, huh, okay. And then the Twin Towers, they showed that picture over and over and over again until you didn't even want to watch it. It was just something, because your mind shuts off. That's why we do Vedanta. That's why we do meditation, to have control over what our minds are doing. And being able to take that control and direct it to God. I mean, why else would we bother with all of this? We have something we want beyond this. Now, be it peace of mind, be it the innate feeling of joy. Like Hafiz said, I wake up happy before I have reason to be. I mean, I think that's a wonderful thing, where you wake up happy each morning and you don't have any reason. It could be a lousy day, you don't know what's coming, but you just wake up feeling good, feeling that everything's fine. But that is the one thing we have control of. Our reactions and our responses to what's going on, first we have a reaction, then we can decide how to respond. But we take that brief time to see what our minds are doing. And that to me is practical Vedanta. It sounds kind of boring, doesn't it? It sounds really tiresome and like, ooh, I have to work that hard. Yeah, you do. But the good thing is that when you do put forth the effort, the grace of God is right there for you, and it will carry you along. You will have different encouraging things that happen along the way so that you know that it's okay. You can get, I remember Swami P told me, when you first move in, everything's good and you work really hard and you have all this enthusiasm and you're doing everything and he said, enjoy it because you'll go through long periods when nothing happens, but just keep at it. That's our job. Our job is to just keep at it, knowing that it's leading where it's leading and not expecting to have external rewards for doing what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, no one's going to, the skies are not going to open up and they're going to say, good job. But you have to know in your heart, have the faith that you are doing it. And you continue doing it no matter how tired you get. And you try and keep the same routine because that really intensifies the effort and makes it easier. It was one thing that I fought my entire life. I really did not like routine. Now, mind you, I was a school teacher, so I had to be at school 7:30 in the morning and we got out at 2. Okay, fine. But that was the extent of my routine. In the convent, it's a lot more complicated. It was 7:00 meditation, 8:00 breakfast with a whole bunch of people. A lot of people at that time, like 8 people. And then 9:00 you did your karma yoga. And the karma yoga was a prescribed schedule that we had all worked out or had been worked out long before I got there. We had different areas we had to do, and then we rotated on them so that you didn't do the same thing all the time. Then noon worship, 1:00 meal. You got about a half an hour in the afternoon to kind of get sort of organized. Then gardening at least. You had to garden every day because Maharaj Brahmananda said everyone should work in the garden. It's good for the soul. And then did not have classes in Santa Barbara particularly, but we were expected to do reading, study each day for a certain amount of time. Then Vespers, everyone, 6:00. And when Swami P was in town, we had to have supper, sit down and have supper with him, which I say had to sit down. We all enjoyed it. None of us really wanted to eat supper because we were always worried about eating too much. So, and then we would have gospel readings 3 nights a week in the convent living room. And so this was a really rigid routine for someone like me. And I used to just think, can I really do this all my life? But as soon as I realized if I quit fighting it and just changed my attitude, I had like an extra 2 hours to do stuff I wanted to do in the afternoon. When you get yourself into when you start a routine, no matter how hard it is to start, like set aside 10 minutes in the morning if you have a shrine in your house, to acknowledge it, to sit down, wave incense, but at least acknowledge if you don't have time to meditate. Then do your work and do everything, take care of the house. Then when you come home again, acknowledge the shrine or sit down and do your job for even 10 minutes to set the routine. Then it becomes a habit, and the habit is really hard to break. So if you set your good habits, then you're much ahead of the game. If you set bad habits, you end up frustrated all the time or if you end up thinking about, oh, I have to do that. I have to do that. We had a worker on the property, and when I'd say, this needs doing right now, we'll do it right now, then I won't have to think about it. And I thought, oh, that's good. I tend to put off distasteful jobs or ones we're not really good at, but they're sitting in the back of your mind nagging at you. I have to do that. I'm going to have to do that. I have to make time for that. Well, if you just do it, it's done. And you don't have to worry about it. That's another way of setting a good habit and allowing more time to think about your practice in trying to realize divinity in everyone, your own particularly. You have to know that you truly are divine inside and have a firm faith in that. As one of the Swamis said, or one of Ramakrishna's disciples, how can I be a sinner? I have taken the name of God and I say the name of God. How can I call myself a sinner? That kind of faith in your guru, your japa, what you're saying, if you have a mantra, is the name of God. You're putting that, reinforcing that constantly in your heart, in your mind. And so, in practical terms, you're probably halfway there, at least. That's about all I talk. I never talk for more than 40 minutes. So if you have any questions, you can ask them, but I finish my talks easily in 40 minutes. Is it 40 minutes? Are you keeping time? Oh dear. Oh dear, 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 dear. Okay. So, what will you feel like when you start doing this? What will you feel like? How will your day go when you start actually trying to think of, to replace the negative thoughts with positive things, and you stop getting frustrated with what you have to do, what I have to do. I have to do it. When you stop getting frustrated with it, how will you actually feel? What I find is you feel absolutely free of responsibility, even though you still have to do things, but you're not responsible anymore. It's not you doing it. You're acting as an instrument of God, of whatever, to get these things that need, the things of daily life that need to be done. But you're not responsible. And you have no idea what freedom that is. If it goes wrong, well, things have gone wrong before, and it's my favorite Abraham Lincoln. It's not done yet. It'll all get right in the end. We had a terrible disaster happen, and it's still happening. Last year in February, they had heavy, heavy rains in Santa Barbara. We have a renter. We have 4 rentals right around the temple. So one of our renters, who is elderly, she's like 83, lives in one of our houses that is at the end of a very, very long driveway, probably almost a quarter of a mile. And it's very steep and windy, and it's one lane. Okay, it's on the side of the hill too, because there's a big canyon that goes down, and our property is flat down there. Okay, these heavy rains in February, some of it fell off. And one of our, Enrique, who takes care of our property, said, maybe I better get your car out before more comes off. And he drove the car out. Well, by the time he drove the car out, another 1.5 feet had dropped off into the canyon. And then we're kind of going, she's still optimistic. She's wonderful. She said, well, that's okay. I can just walk up and down the hill. I'll park my car up here and everything's fine. So we woke up Saturday morning and I said, no, we're getting a whole caravan and we're going to go down with these little carts that we have, and we're bringing out everything that you need, and you're moving up here behind the bookstore. So we had about 8 people, and we moved up and down this driveway, which kills me. I would never walk up it usually. And we're dragging carts full of everything. Well, by Monday, I think that started on a Wednesday, and by Monday, the entire road was gone. She had like this much space to kind of crawl on the side of the hill. And so we got right organized. We're going to take care of this. We're going to get this fixed. This old woman has to get back in her house. And have you ever encountered the county or the city? We're out of the city, but have you encountered the county? Well, you need this and you need that, and you have to get a soil engineer, and you have to get a structural engineer, and you have to get permits. And by that time, it's like, okay. So we started slowly, thank God. It's been a year now, a year and a few months, and we had more rain this February, and we haven't gotten anywhere on the road, except that it keeps falling off every time there's rain. And now it's okay. Can you just take this for a second? I want to do a picture. The hill's here, the road's here, there's a hill here. There's a house up here, and our house is down there, perfectly safe. Nothing's happening to it. Well, this house, we think, the one up here, their drain pipes caused the original erosion. But our neighbor won't talk to us. She's afraid of a lawsuit. So it continues to just go on and on and on and on and on. Now, we thought that this was really awful that we couldn't get going and get her back in her house. But by this time, we're going, no, the Lord knew better. If we had tried to start fixing it, we would be in, this is on the practical, cost overruns. We would be redoing everything that we had done because now the thing is sliding down from her property. So we thought we were really squizzled, but the Lord had a better idea. More was going to happen. We'll get it fixed when it's hopefully stabilized. But often, now if we had thought, and it was a great tendency to think, we've got to push this through. We have to push it because she's old. And her, her furnishings are all down there. Everything's down there. No one can get down there, so it's safe. But really inconvenient for someone who's 83, 84. Having to move up and basically camp in one of our other buildings. I mean, and she's being extremely positive about it. She's been a Vedantist for quite a long time and is really trying to put it into everyday action. Not get discouraged, not get so that's what I'm saying when she gave up all expectations this year. She said, I'm going to start decorating the pavilion because it's going to be a few years till I get down there. We can always make these experiences that we have, if not in our favor, at least not against us. We can come to make peace with what's happening to us. We may not alleviate the situation, but we can make peace with it in our own minds. And for me, that is part of the essence of the whole of practical Vedanta, to get this under control so that I'm not reacting to everything that happens. Because that's the only place that will allow me to be peaceful. And it's the only place that will allow me to be agitated all the time, irritated, anxious, fearful. So if I can get a hold of that and put it down here, then everything will be fine. Has it been 40 minutes now? Okay. And I still say if anyone has any questions, that's fine. Okay. So, can I give you this back again for a minute? Because I really did have something I wanted to read to you. Okay, what these are. One of the nuns in San Francisco is a disciple of Swami Sarvagatananda, who is a disciple of Swami Akhandananda. Perfect karma yogi, absolute wonderful karma yogi. And Swami Sarvagatananda has imbibed that whole thing of how to train your mind and how to be selfless. And he keeps three things are necessary for spiritual experiences: devotion, purity of mind, and faith. Those three things. And he says you will have experiences, but you have to build those. This is how this book is written, snippets from each day. So I don't read the whole thing at once. The way to overcome any negative or unwanted thought is to renounce it through detachment. Tell the mind, not for me, I don't want that. Tell that thought, I don't want you. And we can do that if we catch what we're thinking. I go one step further and Pollyanna it and think of a positive thing. But this is where you start. Just as soon as those negativities or criticisms or evaluations of other people, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're not doing this. And I'm all big one in the convent. All the work's on me. I want to be a victim today. Why do I have to do this all the time? I mean, we all feel that at times. Why does it all depend on me? Well, it doesn't. Plain and simple. That's our choice. We had someone that lived with us. Oh my Lord, did she want to be a victim? You'd say something and she would go into a tailspin. She didn't stay. We'd all kind of look at her and go, which is the hard part of living with groups, because they'll call you on it all the time and you have to admit it. They may call you on it gently the first 5 or 6 times, but then they'll go, stop. Just stop. So, and when we have friends who are like-minded, if they're really good friends, they'll help you with that too. We may not like them for a minute, but they do help you. That's what you do with, when you're training your children too. We had a little kids that came and they were playing at this size, and running on our property, and very small. And our property is like rough, uphill, downhill. And when kids run downhill, their noses get in front of their toes and they fall over. And this little boy fell over and his dad just picked him up and he says, okay, brush it off, you're fine. And the kid, okay, I'm fine. It's, when we learn that as a child, that I'm not, oh, I have to sit and cry forever because I fell over. Okay, you're fine. He checked to see that he was, of course. But there's all kinds of ways to put these things into practice. We have to be innovative in thinking. But I know every one of us is capable of it. If we put our minds to it, we all are. And I have to say that this is the first time I've been to, not the first time to Texas. I was here for 3 days once before, but the first time I've ever been at one of the centers. And I think this is a fantastic center. I think you're all wonderful. You're so nice and friendly. And the nice thing about coming to these centers, and I'll tell you, it's like you're coming home every time, because it is. We're all part of the same Vedanta family. So it's just like, oh, okay, I'm visiting my relatives in Austin. And yeah, that's good. So now, oh dear, give it a go. I usually I'm very bad at Sanskrit. It's not one of my strong points. I learned very early in my Vedanta, I did learn Sanskrit. I learned the alphabet, I learned how to do things, and I promptly forgot it as soon as really promptly forgot it, as soon as one of the Swamis said, you don't really need to know it because everything's been translated. And I went, whew. But we can end with filled with Brahman are the things we see, filled with Brahman are the things we see not. From out of Brahman floweth all, yet Brahman remains the same. Om, peace, peace, peace. Now you can figure out which one that was. Purnamada. Okay. And I'm finished. That I do have a reputation for that. The first time I gave a talk, I wasn't supposed to give it. I was on vacation, and Swami Atmarupananda, whom you all know, his father was sick. And the convent said, you're going to have to give the talk on Sunday. Well, we played jokes on each other, and I knew it was a joke. So I didn't make any attempt to get ready. And your topic is, and I thought, this is really a weird joke, but it's a joke. And I got home on Saturday, and the talk was on Sunday. And they said, no, you really are giving the talk. Well, I don't give talks. I like to talk, but I don't like to give talks. And I got up and I had put together something on cards. One of our devotees looked at it and he said, it was done in 25 minutes. And I just went, I don't have anything more to say, and sat down. And afterwards, the devotee had sat in the front row to be supportive. And he said, I've never seen anyone flip cards faster than you did. So now what do we?
It's been really refreshing to have the practical nature of
Well, I don't,
that.
thank you, but so many, we can't make a difference between our spiritual life and our life. Our life has to be our spiritual life. There's not a difference. Everything that you do has to be your spiritual life. And so many of us, it's so easy if you're of the temperament to compartmentalize. And I did that for years. When I was growing up, I never thought about God except on Sundays when I went to church. But we have to make every minute of our life our spiritual life. Even when you're out having fun and doing things that are not your spiritual life. But as I always, and I heard this from a South Carolina bus driver, why you can't hide anything from God. Can't hide your thoughts. God already heard it, so you may as well say it. God always knows what you're doing, no matter what, and loves you anyway. So, and we know that's true of Holy Mother and Thakur. I mean, they had unstoppable love for everyone. Yeah. So that's all we have to do is just live our spiritual life. We don't give up, we don't float around going, oh, I can't do that because I'm thinking of God. We still have to do the stuff we have to do, but for God instead of, not in spite of. For is a gift. Yeah. Okay, what do we do, Anand?
What's next?
What's next? Oh. What's next?
Next.
Yeah.
Q&A
Okay. Yes.
I am curious, how do you inculcate these values in like younger children, teens, preteens?
Basic. Okay.
How do you give them that sense that hey, detach your efforts from the expectation that you're going to win? I get questions from my son when I tell him, it's okay, you didn't win. But he's like, no, but that's the whole point of me, spending so many hours. And I struggle. I struggle to tell them how to deal with it. So, do you have any pointers for that?
Well, don't make it too important. Mostly by example, not being too, making sure you praise them doing their best, whether it win, lose, and you're not going to win every time. No one wins every time. I know we have some kids across the street from, and they went to a school that was a private school, got scholarships to it. Don't make enough money to take part in everything. And their father just kind of told them, we don't have enough money, so you will not be able to do everything that the other kids do. Are you okay with that? And his children said, yes, that's okay. And they understood. I mean, and that was when the first one was about 8. And they're, so by example, he's a marvelous example of a karma yogi. Works like everything he does extremely well and perfectly. And he's our full-time employee, and we know what we pay him. He doesn't get much pay. And he's never, I used to ask him, I said, don't you want to go get a better job? Because you can. No, I like this job. So we count him as God's gift to us, because we wouldn't survive without him. And he looks at the other way, but it's mostly by example. If you're supportive of the effort and how much he puts into it, and just let him know life is not fair. You don't win every single game, and it's okay to lose. I mean, some of the biggest sports stars, they lost. They were in losing games and they couldn't quit. If you want to keep going and pursue that, and who are they competing against? If it's a team sport, then you have to work with the team. If it's an individual sport, are you competing against outside people or yourself? Are you trying to get better all the time? But how old is? Yeah, they can understand a conversation like that. They may not like it, but they can understand it. Yeah. And yes, the purpose is to win, but how do you do it? By working together rather than trying to be trying to be the star. Teamwork is what makes the teams work. I don't know. Hmm? Yeah. Excellent book. I've been recommending it. I told the nun in San Francisco, I said, well, have you noticed that the sales are going up? I've been telling everyone they should read it. And she says, yeah, I heard about you. She's very quiet. You will hardly find her name on it because she had Swami Tyagananda put it together and he refused to have it. His name's on the front page, but in the foreword, you find out who really gathered the stuff. She absolutely refused to have her name on the book. She says, it's not me, it's Swami Sarvagatananda. But she was the one who had the inspiration to write down things, which are fascinating to me. And they're all helpful. Maybe some of them I don't resonate with as much as others, but everyone that I've recommended the book to says, oh yeah, I just read a couple or maybe one and think about it. As I say, I'm not going through it quickly. I've had it almost a year and I'm only here. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
Um, we've been talking about how all of it is, whatever happens in our life is Lord's grace. So how do we reconcile the idea that everything is Lord's grace, yet we say God helps those who help themselves? Like, how do we reconcile these two ideas together to do everything and follow?
Do you remember the story in Ramakrishna's in the gospel? You set your sail and the breeze is always blowing. Setting your sail is doing the work. And it really is always blowing. But we had this discussion the first 3 years I was in the convent, Swami Pavitrananda and Swami Prabhavananda at breakfast and lunch. One would take grace and one would take self-effort. And at the end of every single meal, it takes both. You have to make the effort. It actually, even in order to know that you're receiving the grace, if you don't make the effort, you don't tend to recognize the grace. If that makes sense. I think it did to me. So that's how I reconcile it.
Absolutely, to shoot your question. Obviously.
You can also just make comments. I even take comments. Okay.
So in my line of work, a lot of it is like way too selfless service, but because it's my job and I get paid for it, I don't understand like if I can detach my idea of like this being selfless to me doing this as something for gain, right? So I would like to just ask like how do I separate the two? And it's like a line of work in which you benefit financially or externally, still selfless.
Well, I would venture a guess that you're not gaining hugely financially doing selfless service. And so don't think you really need to worry about that. As Ramakrishna also said, you have to maintain yourself and your family. But as long as your attitude at work is you're doing it as an offering to these people, this is self. I'm venturing another guess that you might be in the caregiving. Yeah. And you have to get paid. You have to have a livelihood. And I would put it in the same situation that I put our Enrique, who, as far as I'm concerned, it's selfless service. We pay him and we rent him a house. But I still call it selfless service because he lives across the street and he comes over anytime there's anything needed. He's not paid, he doesn't get the recompense that if he were in it for the money that he would get. And I would venture that you probably really don't.
You are
No, we've had a couple of nuns that have had to go to care facilities, and we know the people are not paid well. And they give such good service and kind and really take care of the people that they're taking care of. That's selfless. If they just did the cursory job and, eh, okay, I gave them their lunch and walk out, then that's not selfless. That's selfish. But most people, I don't imagine that's you. So I don't think you need to worry about it. Yeah.
Well, I have a question. If
Oh.
the practical Vedanta aspect, if you're encountering and going through a situation that's not improving, it keeps going on and happening. How do you reconcile that?
Oh dear. I have been on the board of the Vedanta Society of Southern California for 35 years. Many things do not get reconciled. Each one of us keeps doing our best. We just do our best. And if it's accepted, okay. If it isn't, then you just go, we'll see what comes, But you just keep trying to do your best and especially if it's a group situation.
No, it's a single situation. If
Oh,
the other party does not come to the table, does not perform.
ew. I don't know. Try talking it out. Start with the simplest thing.
Well, isn't that kind of like the woman above the hill?
Yeah, she won't talk to us.
I mean, you're in that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what we do with it, yeah, we've gone, yeah, that's it, exactly. We have contacted her. We have tried to be friendly. We've promised her we weren't going to sue her. We just want to fix the situation. And she still won't speak to us. And probably in the next month, our lawyer will have to write a letter. I mean, you keep doing it. We try and keep things as amicable as possible and as a solution decided between the individuals, and try not to take things to a point of lawsuits. And if it, unfortunately, there are some people in the world that don't respond. But we don't rush to, we try everything possible before we get into the, pull out the missiles. Talking things over, talking things over, trying to establish some kind of negotiating ground, trying to do that. And sometimes it works. Most all the time it works. There are those times when it doesn't. And then I don't know what we'll do in this situation, but in our situation, what we feel will happen is there's enough soil engineers and enough structural engineers that are pointing out that it really is her problem, that she will hopefully compromise. But I seriously don't know. You just keep working on it. And try not to get too frustrated. Try not to get angry, because that doesn't help anything. Yeah, it's hard.
I find out was there's a box prasad distribution.
Oh, we can.
Usually we give it to Mataji for distributing the box prasad. I'll find out from them, are they ready? They're ready. Okay.
Oh, we can. Actually, we can chat. I would like to know who you all are. It can just be a chatting situation. Okay. Yeah. Now, how did you all get involved in Vedanta? Some of you I know because you come to the other days, but
Newcomers you're talking about.
yeah, the newcomers department. Do we have a newcomers club? We do in Santa Barbara. Not at the temple. They have in Santa Barbara something, which I think is not a bad idea.
That is, box prasad will be distributed by Mataji in the kitchen room here.
Yeah, I didn't bring it here. It's another house.
Okay.
Okay.
You didn't bring it here? Oh dear. We have to walk?
Absolute silence.
I know.
We want to
I've-
maintain silence in shrine. Now is the silence.
I talked them to death. They can't, they're just like, will she never stop?
So if there's no question, and we can walk across the pathway to the next house, and Mataji will be distributing the box prasad. Thank you for coming, and we continue to have your attendance for our future events.
Next program is on May 19th.
Oh, that's when you're going to have Swami Magyanananda. Now, you all know him, don't you? He's wonderful. He's in Washington D.C. He's he won't like me saying that. He joined in Trabuco. I will give you a really nice description. He did his PhD, and he's a Sanskrit scholar. He did his PhD on part of the Chaitanya movement in Orissa. Yeah, it was a certain aspect, and I read his thesis, and I was never so bored in my entire life. He had such a good topic, and he's such a devotee, and it was so boring. And I said to him, Stuart Maharaj, how could you do this? And he said, that's what PhD theses are like. They're unreadable. And I said, okay. But he is a master craftsman. He has built shrines for many of the centers around the U.S. He's a master craftsman in woodworking. He works all the time. He built, not by hand, but had the vision of the temple in Washington, D.C., which I'm sure you've seen pictures of, and built that big temple. I was there for the dedication of it probably, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And he was one of the first swamis in the US to attempt to start a free clinic at the temple. He had devotees who were doctors, and he was going to have a free clinic for unhoused people and people who couldn't afford the medical stuff. It didn't take off like he thought it would. And then COVID happened and they couldn't do it. They were having trouble. I think they were having trouble getting permits. But he has an enclave of devotees who live around the temple in Maryland, and is very, very supportive of everything. The devotees are very supportive of the temple. He has crews that come in, literally crews of devotees who come in every Saturday, and they all have a certain area they clean and take care of. And we have wonderful devotees at our center who come and do their regular work. But I was like, my mouth just hung open with this one, because all these men and women came in and they were taking apart all the furniture and getting bookstores cleaned behind and everything done. And I'm going, wow, it's a very populated area. But he does a wonderful, wonderful work there. And his lectures are excellent. One of our nuns who's in a nursing home follows his gospel classes. I think they're every Saturday, and she absolutely won't miss them. They're either Saturday or Friday. I'm not sure which, but he does classes online. Wonderful, wonderful Swami. American. And he's I think he was raised in Philadelphia. I'm not sure. I think you will really enjoy him. Very personable, very, very active. Always active.
He will be here for a day, Shia?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had Chaya, she didn't know who I was talking about. I kept saying Stuart Maharaj, because we all knew him as Stuart when he was down in Trabuco. Yeah. Can't quite change that. But you'll enjoy that. I'm sure you will. And he'll enjoy being here. He's coming to Southern California again, and we're like, you better speak in Santa Barbara. You cannot come through again without speaking. And his response, well, invite me. Oh, we have to do our part? So, yep. Okay. Do I still have a microphone on?